So Andy, welcome to the Mark and Me podcast.
Thank you very much.
What I love to do with all guests that come on the show is take it right back to the very start.
Okay.
So when you were a kid, can you tell me what was that first album that you remember buying or that was given to you that changed your life?
I don't know if it changed my life, but I have a distinct memory of the Space Jam soundtrack, 1993, 4, 5, somewhere around then. And the song "I Believe I Can Fly" by R. Kelly.
I was not expecting you to say that.
I don't think I was either. The cooler answer is
well, at least you're being honest.
Is Blur Song 2 or Machine Head by Bush. Those were sort of the first songs that I learned how to play guitar on and made myself like a makeshift drum kit of boxes and Christmas tree holders as cymbals that I would bang on. But the truth is, it's defamed and disgusting R. Kelly was my first one.
Do you know what though? Weirdly, one of the first songs I learned on the guitar was Machine Head, because I just remember the really simple,
super easy.
But I just was blown away by the fact that Gavin Rosdale was playing that while the guitarist was just doing a different chord, but he carried on playing the same sequence, and that I adore that in music. That's one of the things I love the most.
100%. I mean, that's really where like movie scoring is based on that concept.
Yeah.
You know, in general, of like how is this melody going to work over top. And Manchester's really over the last 8 years. I've gotten really fascinated with that of repeating melodies and motifs and things that can work over different structures, and how a melody over top of a minor chord carries a whole different weight of emotions to it. So yes, I agree with you.
We're going to get straight deep in.
I didn't learn any of that part about Machine Head. I just knew the one riff.
But it just blew my mind when I learned to play it, and I was like, that's so cool that all it is two chords while that's playing, but it's still making that main riff just really stand out.
100%. Yeah, I love that song. And Blur Song 2 is similar. Like you know, there's just a very simple thing to play with power chords. Didn't take much, you know.
I swear it might be Machine Head backwards.
Yeah, you're right.
Which is insane.
That's really funny.
But with music, one of the first live bands I was ever lucky enough to see, I'm 41 now, so when I was growing up, my parents let me go to my first gig when I was about 11 or 12, and it was Green Day on their Dookie tour.
Oh, amazing.
And it was mind-blowing.
Of course.
So when I was there, I was like, I can't believe there's only 3 people on that stage making that much noise, and playing stuff like When I Come Around and She and all these incredible songs.
Yep.
Made me actually love music more than when I was at home listening on CD. That was when I was like, the hairs on my neck were sticking up. I got goosebumps, and I was like, I want to spend the rest of my life going to gigs. Like, it blew my mind.
There's something to it. I just heard the other day a scientist talking about how they believe that really, if you take it all the way back, that you know, music and dancing were likely the first ways that human beings communicated with each other before we actually knew what language was. And so there's something like actually like scientific happening in our bodies that live music just sort of nothing else can replicate, because like what you just said, what you experienced in that room, even without a cognitive knowledge that it's happening, is you were a part of that music. Like it's going through your body and it's radiating back to the stage. And so there's this like,
there's a connection, instantly.
100%. It's a communion between people that can't be replicated. Not to go too deep immediately into like AI, but it's one of the like I think positive things about that likely won't be able to take over the live music thing, just because there is such a like human element to that thing.
There's nothing robotic about a guy singing with his vocal that makes like watching a performance from Jeff Buckley. That will never be replaced by AI.
Correct.
Like, it's too pure.
I just went and saw another 3-piece, very different than, you know, circa Dookie Green Day, but I went and saw the Smile play, the new Tom York and Johnny Greenwood.
I saw them in Manchester last year with my wife.
So what's that, you would say, one of the greatest shows you've ever seen in your entire life?
I couldn't believe that he can do that.
Same.
And then go, I'm going to go back to Radiohead in a few months.
Same.
I'm like, how do you get to have 2 of the greatest things around?
And 3 people, and no tracks.
I was looking like, that can't just be Johnny on guitar. There's got to be someone else.
Yeah, man, we got seats for the venue that they played in Atlanta. We know the guys who run it, and so we were able to get like these seats. And it was really more like me and Robert were watching like a lesson, like a full blown like master's thesis in sound and and in performance, so we were up above and we could actually look, and we were doing the same thing.
You're getting a
like,
notebook out and being like,
yeah,
that's
we're
the
like,
pedal he's
how
using.
are they doing it?
Yeah.
You know, and even just the choreography of the crew that they had
It's
was
incredible.
masterful. You know,
And the way that Tom York would be like, on this song, I'm just going to start playing a bit of bass guitar.
and you forget he's there.
I know.
You're like watching the show, and you're like, oh yeah, Tom York's over there playing bass.
It was mind blowing.
really
There was
cool.
a song, I can't remember the exact track name, so I'm rubbish with names. It's always like track 8 on the album, but
I'm particularly bad with his song names.
yeah.
I'm usually pretty good about other
But
artists.
the whole set was blue, and he was playing on his piano. Honestly, dude, my wife, I looked round and she was lost. Like, she was gone. There was no like, hey, what do you think to this song? She was just in that moment, and it was magical to watch. And I was
Yeah.
like, that's one guy just singing his heart out, playing on this, organ, and it was just so pure.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's how I felt too. And I'm jaded towards that stuff. So when, I can go to a show and feel like I'm actually levitating, it was like, it's that same exact feeling you fell in love with at the Green Day show.
Yeah.
It's that thing. It's why I'm obsessed with this as my job, and continue to do it, because you're always chasing that.
What was your first, and you can be honest if it's embarrassing, and hopefully it's not like R. Kelly or someone, but what was the first
it'll be
live
worse.
gig you went to?
It'll be worse than that. So I grew up in a really... in a church family. So like we were really not, other than oldies, we didn't really listen to a lot of quote unquote like secular music when I was growing up. So the first show I went was the biggest Christian band back in the day was this band called DC Talk from DC. Yeah. Well, everyone in America has.
I'm not going to check that out
Everyone.
after this interview. DC Talk.
DC Talk. I think it stood for Decent Christian Talk, but there was a lot of like, who knows exactly what it is. But anyways, like they were like a hip hop band that turned into a rock band, and I saw them play at the Toronto Sky Dome for like a big Christian conference. And yeah, I can't say that it like really moved me or changed anything about me. Really, the first time I got, there were a few. I mean, like I'm trying to think of some of like the first real like great shows I saw in my early teens. I saw the Strokes play on their first tour at the Tabernacle in Atlanta with Regina Spektor and Kings of Leon opening up for that tour.
So is that for Is This It?
It would have been Is This It?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
At their peak for me, I was like, wow,
Yes.
what a debut.
Yeah, I believe so. Or if it was not that, it was like the week
Yeah.
Room on Fire came out. It was, but I also saw them on. I can't remember which. I saw them on both of those tours. I remember looking at my buddy, and they were playing. It must have been Room on Fire because they're playing the opening track off of Room on Fire. I wanna be forgotten. That whole moment, and me and my friend are literally just like jumping up and down, like standing in place with our arms raised, strobe lights going, and just smiling. Just like, man, I want to try and do this with my life. And then it was like seeing punk shows. So like, being in a small conservative Christian high school, no one's really doing anything other than like hunting or looking at the wind on the weekends. And so,
What are you up to this weekend? Some deers? Maybe a rabbit?
there's something to that. There is some zen that's amazing to me about those people that can like go sit in the woods for 10 hours and not think about anything, but it's not for
Some
me.
camouflage gear and just...
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's not for me.
Not for me either. But going to, there's a adjacent town to where I live called Athens, Georgia, and this is where like REM came out of, Neutral Milk Hotel, all the Olivia, Tremor Control, the Elephant Six Collective, very cool underground kind of DIY scene. And I remember going with an older friend of mine and going into a club, and I was too young to get in, but they snuck me in the back door, and I'm watching maybe 40 people at this venue and going like, this is the alternate lifestyle
That's
I've
amazing.
been looking for,
Yeah.
Little did I know, that was like a curse to myself to just spend the next 5 years in shitty clubs like that. But
You never
but
got to go further.
I got what I asked for.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. And I suppose with Manchester Orchestra, I've not been there since the start, so I can't claim to be the fan that was there almost 20 years ago. The reason I started listening to you is my favourite band of all time are Thrice. Literally, I think Dustin is probably one of the best frontman and songwriters in the music industry. Like, he's a god.
Yeah.
And every time I saw him and interviewed him for the podcast, he'd have a Manchester Orchestra t-shirt on. And I was like,
that's awesome.
Who's that? So I went home and I was like, oh, okay, now I can see. And it just genuinely, dude, changed my life. Like,
Oh, wow.
The
That's
moment
amazing.
I started listening, I was like, how have I missed out on this band? And then I started telling my friends, like, have you heard Manchester Orchestra? And all of them are like, of course I have, you fucking idiot. Like, Where have you been?
There's one of two responses. There are people either definitely know who we are, or they have no earthly idea who we are.
But
it's one of the two.
Did you see yourself still doing this after all this time? Was there like a vision at the start? Because I believe, didn't you start off just wanting to do it as a solo thing and do it as your own?
Yeah, I mean, just that, because it was sort of the natural reaction to being in your first rock band, so like I'm in a band with a bunch of guys in high school, we're together, play first show Halloween 2001, last show Halloween 2002, it's like a year long. I didn't like the dynamics of a band where everybody had equal say, and I wanted like to have my own band, you know? I wanted to be the one that was writing the songs, and I felt like the least cocky way to do that was just saying, well, I will just go make my own thing, and if any of my friends want to come collaborate, that would be great to have them, and that's sort of where the orchestra idea, the name, came from. But to answer your question, 100%, this is what I was hoping that I would do. My folks always used to laugh at me because they'd ask like what plan B was, and there was just never a plan B for me of any kind. And I just set a goal that was like, if I can sell 100 tickets in every city that I go to, then that is like a level of success that I still, to this day, if everything went away and that was still where I was sitting, I would still feel like a great sense of gratitude and accomplishment in that.
That's awesome.
Because that's still such a powerful movement. It's like the moments that happen in rooms like that are that small. There's still such a connection. So the hope was, that there was never a hope to be like the biggest band in the whole world, but there was always a hope to try and be like the greatest band, or in my opinion, try and like keep pushing forward and never really have limitations on how far we could push or what kind of sound, we should be. And guys like Thrice have been doing that for their careers as well. It's, always kind of taking left turns, and Dustin's about to do that again. With something he's working on too, that's insanely
great.
Album,
it blows my mind.
Yeah.
And the first one was incredible, so I'm like, give me more.
It's really, really good.
Stop making me wait so long.
No, you'll really like it. I was just with him a couple months ago in LA. We played there, and his wife Shadley's they're both so encouraging and have been to me. He's a good few years older than me, and he's really been he's a helpful big brother to me.
Yeah.
And really likes our music and genuinely likes it. So that's,
He's always wearing your colors. So
that's amazing.
It's fucking awesome.
That's
it's working, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Shout out, Dustin. Thanks, Steve.
So what I normally ask people is, and you answered it for me, is I always find it quite strange because when I was growing up and I wanted to be in a band, I wanted to be Kurt Cobain, I wanted to grow my hair and play stuff like Livium and stuff like that. But my parents were always like, well, you need to get a real job and then you can do the band as a back, as a bit of fun, but you need a backup. So go to uni, do all the things, tick all the boxes. But you just said like your parents were kind of not encouraging in that way. Were they kind of like...
Well, I think they saw the writing on the wall when the report cards were coming home from school and...
Look, son.
Yeah.
Are you fucking turning up?
Sure, university would be a good idea if there's one that would take me. I had really, really, really bad grades. Not failing, but as close to failing.
Me too.
As could be. And all from... I'm not a stupid person. Hopefully, but it was all just because I'm still sort of this way. Like I just don't care if I don't care, and so when I found things that I cared about.
Well, the thing is, it's not interesting you, is it? So if you're bored in school, I'm bored. I don't want to read this text. I don't want to read this story about something that I don't
care about.
Especially when
it's not being taught to you well. Yeah. When I had great teachers, I did well in the classes. When it was my music lessons,
they're like, bring in something that you love, and I'm like, there's Nirvana, Nevermind. I want to play along to Polly and learn, and it's like, I'll do that all day.
Exactly. I can spend 12 hours a day doing this.
Yeah, give me that all day, but stop putting me in a science lab telling me how this is going to make this different colors. I don't care.
It doesn't matter to me. Exactly.
I've never needed it.
And the kids that did matter to, they loved it,
And they're now all on amazing
jobs.
They're
doing great.
They're all rich
the bastards.
and successful.
But are they happy?
But I can play Polly on an acoustic.
Exactly.
So
they might still be bored though.
Yeah.
So basically in the States, you need enough credits to graduate high school, and so I only needed 3 credits for what would have been my last year of high school, and asked them and kind of pleaded, would it be okay if I stayed home this year and could homeschool myself and get these credits and kind of figure out what I want to do. My dad and mom have always been, since I was younger too, of like, don't have to go to college right away, like take a year, figure out what you want to do. Always encouraging us to travel, taking us around, showing us different cultures and different ways of life. So, in retrospect, it's crazy when I think about it. Like, whoa, because I have a 9-year-old daughter now, and the idea of in 9 years from now, she's like, yeah, I want to start my, acoustic or my solo music career. I don't know. That just seems like a lot, but they were cool about it. And I had someone that was really supportive of me, a guy who worked for a magazine called Paste Magazine, and he helped me put some money together to record an album and buy me like a decent guitar amp that wasn't like a small guy, and just a guy that still, to this day, I still know him. His name's Joe Kirk. Just very encouraging to me. He saw something at a Battle of the Bands I played when I was 17, and he knew I wasn't there, and I wasn't there yet. Obviously, I still feel like I'm working on getting there, but he was able to really I think calm my parents down too. There was an adult in the room with children and a job, cool. That was like, no, Andy's like good at this, because they thought I was good, but I'm their kid, so who knows,
They're always going to say that.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So that was kind of it. No backup plan. And it kind of started taking off. We've never had an astronomical rise or a boom, but every year we've just gotten a little bit bigger. And by the time I think we booked like David Letterman, and I was like 20, which is in America, that was the show that you want to try and get onto. This is like, an institution. And once I called my parents and told them that, I think they were like, okay, well, that's an incredible accomplishment.
It's on the telly now.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, Mom,
no, dude, they came. Yeah. They flew to New York and came. Yeah, they had to.
Well, that is awesome.
Cool. Yeah.
So I suppose with being in a band that's been going so long, and you just said the words, you still don't think you've made it yet.
Yeah.
Isn't that a great way to be, that you're quite humble, you're quite level, and you're kind of grounded, because you must be able to see that you've not suddenly got this #1 album overnight, but it's a slow burn, but the burn is always going upwards. And for a fan of your music, it's great to see that you're continually evolving as a band, like Radiohead, who we've mentioned today, like Thrice.
Right.
You don't play it safe. You don't just do the same 10 songs, release another album, and it's like, okay, it's that band again. They're doing it. They're playing it safe. You're always stretching the boundaries.
I think that because we got weird early, so like we released a first record that people connected to, not a large group of people, the people that did, it really connected with them. And then we made a pretty aggressive record that followed that, pretty unhinged album, but great songs on it. I think it threw people for a loop, but then once they were able to go like, oh, okay, wait, so we're not really quite sure what this band is. And then by the time we released our third record, and it's this, symphonic thing that, isn't that grungy anymore. It was like we'd piss off 25% of the fan base, but then within the year or two, 50% more people would like hear it, and then those people would start to understand. Like, definitely a band that when we release records, we'll have a group of our fans that go, I have no idea what they're doing, I hate this. And then 5 years later, they're like, that's my favorite record, I finally get it,
That's what Radiohead fans do. I didn't like Kid A. The very first time I put it on, I was like, what is this? And then now, it's probably their greatest work.
Right. Yeah, I know. It's funny when that happens, too, because it can be both ways. Like, and it's turned into a Radiohead podcast, but, similarly for me with some of their records. But then, when I heard in Rainbows, it was a first listen. It was like, oh, yeah, perfect record, cool, got it. So
no, it's true.
It's I don't think either one are right or wrong, but it's fascinating when it happens.
So being involved in the band and obviously at the forefront of it, do you see the kind of growth, or is it too close to home? So do you kind of take a step back and then see, oh, do you remember last year when we played the festival, we weren't on that stage, but now we are, now we're later on in the afternoon?
Yeah.
Do you see that it is progressing?
Yeah, it's funny when it happens to us, it's more of logistical moments. So because we've gotten slow at such a slow pace, it'll be 3 or 4 years and you look around and on this last tour, it was like, guys, we need another semi truck. You are selling so much merch now that we need a truck to carry this merch. And we're like, what?
That's a good problem.
What do you mean?
This is great.
we should be able to fit all of this in the trailer behind the bus like we always do, And so it kind of comes up like that, where we're like, our manager, Mark, will have to tell us a lot. And I hate to remind you this, but you're a bigger band than you were last year, so we need to order this and blah, blah, blah. But I'm grateful for that, too, because when those moments happen, you just said kind of the looking out. We talk about the drone view all the time.
Yeah.
Really kind of pop yourself up and take a look around and be grateful for the growth that's happening. Because when it is happening slowly, there are times when it doesn't feel like it's moving at all, you know, and you just kind of have to keep your head down and keep trying to do good work.
It must be difficult because you are moving, but I suppose it's because it's at a slow rate sometimes. It must just feel like I'm just paused. Like, why have we not done anything? But you are. Everything's going on in the background. You've got
absolutely
new music being written.
Yes.
You're always doing something.
Yes, we're making a living. We've been making a living. We're doing what, you know, like those things that I have to remind myself. Like, yeah dude, you don't. I'm always going to worry. I'm a worrier, just kind of at heart. And I think that also helps me remain kind of prepared and always thinking about what's the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years. What does this look like? So, yeah, it's like taking the moment to kind of look and go, yeah, man, you own a home. You have a family that loves you.
And you get to do what you love.
This is your job. Yeah,
yeah.
You love
I mean,
this,
a lot of the bands
you know?
I interview at festivals, even when they're on the main stage, they finish and I'm like, so what are you up to tomorrow? And they're like, oh, I'm working at Subway. I need to go and pay my bills. You know,
wow.
There's a point where people still are struggling because the industry is so
it's brutal
with streaming and Spotify giving you like a penny for 10 million downloads. And people are like, unless I sell some t-shirts tonight, we're not getting food on the way home. And it's like, God, it's awful out there.
Yeah, we were in that zone for a really, really long time, you know, and especially coming over here too. It's probably the 20th time we've come over here, and you know, we just in the last couple of years started to turn a profit coming over here.
Yeah.
So you know, it's a lot of like investment and time, and you want to be able to perform for people everywhere, but sometimes logistically you just can't. But yeah, I mean, as someone who also owns some of my own records and sees what we actually get paid from Spotify, it's robbery. It's sad.
So what do you kind of see yourself doing in the next 6 to 12 months? Because with the pandemic, everyone had a couple of years out.
Right.
It gave everyone like a restart button. You could finish projects maybe that you hadn't done or spend time with family that you've neglected. But now it's like you've had the EP out earlier on in the year, which is genuinely, I think, your finest ever work.
Thank you very much.
And now I'm like, give me more.
Yeah.
Like, it's not enough of an album. I want more.
Yeah,
so it's like, thank you, but you've left me wanting so much
That's good.
more.
That's good.
It is,
that's
it's
better,
the trailer.
That's better than being full.
Yeah.
I've had enough. No more. I couldn't have one more song.
Go away. Too much filler.
So yeah, I mean, we kind of do this where we work real hard on after we've released something and we go and we promote it, and you know, it's sort of a typical thing, but we like to go into hibernation and get into a creative zone. So we're going to just begin. We already have begun creating this year while we've been home. But yeah, next year is going to be kind of the full, like really figure out how to lock down this vision that I've got for this next kind of phase.
And you're also very important and behind a lot of the visuals of the band. So with last year or earlier this year, we were meant to see the short film and everything else. So I take it you've got this huge desire and passion to do more directing and film stuff, because that's where my heart is.
Yeah,
like,
me
my
too.
life is film. I love doing podcasting with bands, but movies are where my life changes. And I go to the cinema and that's my church. You know, it can change my life every time I go there.
I completely relate and agree. I'm a habitual alone in the movie theater person. The earlier the show, the better. So I could hopefully be completely alone in a theater. I mean, that's where I get a lot of inspiration from too. You know, I think the medium of those the storytelling in film mixed with music is like unparalleled. I think we've been described this way, but I think it just comes naturally to us too. But we write cinematic music. I feel like the records and stories that we're telling are movies that are playing out on a record. So the visual component's always almost equally as important to what's happening with the music. And like finding the right collaborators that understand that vision. And I'm like really into storytelling. I'm trying to just get better and better at storytelling and learning things too from like screenwriting and taking some classes and reading a lot of books about character development and certain things I have done naturally without knowing I was doing them, but now really trying to learn even more about how I can tell better stories and longer form stories. So
it feels like it's an art that could never be mastered, even if you're Scorsese or Christopher Nolan.
Isn't that beautiful? But that's the same with music, man. It's like they're once once I realized that there was actually no like solution, like I
No.
used to say, like trying to finish a record that you've like poured your heart into is like working on this crazy like bank vault lock, and you finally like get through the lock and the record's done, and then behind that door is just like an even more complicated lock for the next record, and it just never stops.
But I've only met you today, and I'm sure you're the guy that when it's finished, you're like, okay, let's all go home. But then you're like, let me back in. I just want to paint a little bit more on that.
100%, 100%, yes. Like
I can't leave it. Like, you go home, guys. I'm just going to pack up. And then you're
Yeah.
like, let me play a bit more.
yeah, there is a psychotic mental breakdown that can happen sometimes, especially during the mixing process when you
Yeah.
have really, there's nothing else to add. There's only adjustments to levels and EQs. That gets terrifying, you know, really, really like scary.
How do you teach yourself to say this is enough now? Do you have to get someone else to like manually pull you out the room and say, stop it now?
Yeah, sometimes.
I've
Like
been
with,
here 41 hours. I'm not doing any more editing on the EQ of that vocal.
like with Black Mile, we nearly killed ourselves trying to finish that, and wasn't able to listen to that record for like a year after it came out because I just didn't think that we accomplished what I had in my mind. I go back and listen to it now. I'm like, it's fantastic, man. Like, what are you talking about? It was there, but you just don't know. It's
Not
like
in
you
that
are
moment. You
right
need
in the
hindsight,
eye
don't
of the
you?
storm.
You need the time
It's
to
essential.
then reflect.
It's essential. And we incorporate that into making the records too. So we'll go really hard and work on something for 6 weeks, 8 weeks, and then we will take 4 weeks to 8 weeks off of something, go work on it, something else, go be with our families, go play some shows, go work with other artists. And then you come back to it, man. And that refresh rate and how you can look at things differently is like, it is so important.
I think you need it, otherwise you're just going to go insane and probably be like Stanley Kubrick and just go absolutely off the rails.
You do, and
Yeah.
I have, and it's
Yeah.
not great for anyone, not the band,
Especially
not
the people
family,
around you,
no,
yeah.
exactly, not the children at home. It's
Yeah.
it's not good. So with Million Masks, we were really fortunate that when COVID hit, we had all this time to mix because everything was shut down. So Catherine's mixing in London for 4 to 6 hours a day for like months. And so we just could creep it up. It was nothing to, usually you got like 2 weeks to mix something if you're lucky. Sometimes
I was going to say that's a long time. for
sometimes
some
it's a
mixing,
song a
like,
day,
yeah.
sometimes it's multiples a day, but this time we got like months to really have it. So that was great because I literally did get to check every box, and then we had to sit on that record for a while, for 8 months before it was released, just to hopefully tour off of it. And I was proud of myself because when I would go back and listen to it, I didn't want to change anything. It was like, no, that's done. That is finished, you know?
That must be a one-off.
Yeah, yes. Or maybe I'm getting older and more mature. I don't
Yeah.
know.
So I suppose with the film, love, do you see yourself as one day making a full film, as in that's yours, directed, a story that you can tell with not just the music but no lyrics, actually a film?
I hope so.
Yeah.
I'm still so fascinated in this journey that I'm on right now with Manchester and music and this kind of grand story arc that began with Black Mile. But I can tell that all the stuff I'm learning and trying to get better at and kind of breaking down my normal habits and trying to reconstruct them into something different that, you know, is kind of inspiring. It all is very clearly like leading to, at some point, I'm gonna like have to write a screenplay and figure it out.
You're like me, it's scary because I buy screenplays for films that I adore and then kind of see the film in a different light because I'm reading it and not seeing the visuals myself. So I love Cameron Crowe. Almost Famous is one of my favorite films ever, hence why I've got his handwriting on me.
That's amazing.
But I literally will read the screenplay and try and vision how I would do it and try and not see his vision.
Wow.
And that's tough.
Yeah, I'm sure, because you've already seen it too.
Seen it.
Yeah.
But I feel like I've got a film in me and I get to work on film sets as a job and it's incredible. But I'm learning all the time. I'm like a sponge. I'm like, how did you do that? What do you mean you use that camera? Why have you got this angle? And I know that one day it's all going to lead to this film.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I'm getting on, so I don't want to be like 91. I'm like, here's my debut short film. And I'll never get to see it 'cause I'm dying. But I do hope that one day me and you were maybe at a film festival and like, do you remember when we spoke about this? And we actually did it.
Well, the best thing about art is that it's never too late to do it. And you're never too old to do anything. And that's a young man's myth that you can't make cool stuff, as you get older in your life. You can absolutely make the coolest stuff you've ever made, and it happens all the time. So,
and you've got experience behind you, and you've got life lessons behind you. So if I did it at 20, I'd be chaotic. I'd be making something that's too fast, it's too full on, no matureness about it. Now I can be like, do you know what? I don't give a shit about all the numbers and all the fans and trying to get all the likes. I just want to focus on what really matters, which is a good story, a good way of like actually telling it, and then the payoff. And if I can do that with some art and style and some heart, I've done what I want to achieve.
There's this great theory or just examination of Paul Thomas Anderson's movies, and what you just said reminded me of it, with the youth and into maturity. So like you see his first movie, Boogie Nights, and even Magnolia, like pretty frantic shooting, constant changes, really rapid. It's distracting you, and I always felt like that was his youth, almost trying to make up for not him a fear that the substance wasn't there underneath. And then you watch as this man continues to make movies, and you'll see a 2-minute long scene in Boogie Nights that 8 million different things happen in, and you see one scene in Phantom Thread that's just Daniel Day-Lewis like eating a biscuit for 2 minutes, and it's like the most gorgeous shot you've ever seen in your life.
It's so
and I
true.
look at music that way too, where it's like my first couple records, I was young. I was 19 when we made Virgin, and 21 when I made Mean Everything to Nothing. And there's that youth to it. I'm super proud of them that they are, because they're documents of that time. But like Valley of Vision would definitely be more of like, that's Daniel Day-Lewis eating a biscuit for 90 seconds.
I was driving here today, and I put it on again, because life's frantic, life is busy, and I find it difficult now just to listen to an album in its entirety, because I'm like, oh, someone's texting, or I've got to do this, or I've got to do that. And I listened to your EP on the way today, which I don't always get to do from start to finish. And I was actually sitting there today truly thinking, this needs to be in the background of a film. Like, I need to see this in Interstellar, where the start of the music, at the ambience is all going on, and take away your vocal for a few minutes, and I can see Christopher Nolan putting some shots together, and I was just picturing
That's awesome. That's
and
a
I
great
was like,
compliment.
it would
Thank
work
you.
so well. And I'm thinking to myself, like, I wonder if he's going to do a film score eventually. I wonder if he's going to like experiment. And
well, we've
even
done
with the
so
vocal,
we did Swiss Army Man, right?
Yes.
And then we did The Death of Dick Long, and then we've had some opportunities, but they didn't feel, we really loved working on those two movies. So like a couple of other things have come up that didn't feel like they would have been the right thing for us. So we're just waiting, to see what the next thing is that we're going to be able to do. But we love it. It's such a fun process, and so stretching for us, because it really works muscles outside of just songwriting. So yeah, man, I don't know. It's something we love. It's something that deeply inspires everything that we do. So I don't know. Maybe I'll do the music for your movie whenever you get around to that
we'll
thing.
team up, and I'll help it. That'd be amazing, and I'll promote it on the podcast.
Perfect.
And we'll go on tour.
And at that time, this will be the #1 podcast in the entire universe.
That would be incredible. And then we'll do Q&As. It all sells itself. But I suppose, what is it going to be like then? You're going to get back from this tour. You've done 3 days in London. Tonight we're here in Manchester. Are you going to have a bit of a breather before writing again? Are you going to spend some time with family? Are you just going to kind of hit the reset? Or have you already got some ideas, some kind of...
Yeah, we have tons of stuff, ideas.
I can't imagine you ever stopping completely.
No, we can't, because we don't want to, first of all. But also, like, we have this studio that's right down the road from us, and we really love creating it. We make sure we go there for a few hours a day, even if it's just to do something. If it's to go cover a song we really love that may never come out, just go work on something. And I think I used to beat myself up when I was younger about being in the studio and not accomplishing, the perfect take or this, because it was this allotted time. And I've really given myself a lot more grace of like, this takes a bit, man. Like, go in. Sometimes you need weeks, months of just like clearing out cobwebs in your brain to figure out what you want to write. That means I might write 20 mediocre songs that get me to the 21st. Because I've been doing this so long, those 20 mediocre songs don't scare me like they used to. So I just think keeping that muscle, just like working out or eating healthy, it's like you want to just like put good things in your body artistically that just kind of help keeping it moving,
Is there an album not too far away? Because I feel like an EP is always like just teasing you, ready for
Sure.
something bigger?
There's nothing that's been completed, and there's a lot of work we have to do. So there's a grand big plan, and I don't want to spoil it because
No,
it's
of
just way
course.
too early. But I'm really, really excited about it, and so is the rest of the band. And so, yeah, this year will probably be more of like smaller sessions, and then top of next year, I imagine we're going to start getting at it.
That sounds exciting.
Yeah,
And would it
man.
be that long until you're back in the UK? Are you looking at hopefully next summer coming back,
It's
maybe
so hard.
festivals? Or?
Yes, we are. We can't announce. We're doing a really great festival next summer that we will be back for. You said it, not me. And we're really excited to come back and do that, and whatever that festival may be.
Yeah.
And think I might bring the kids over for that too. And
My favourite festival in the UK.
That's
And
what,
they've
that's
just
what I've
announced.
heard. I believe we might be playing right before them.
That would be magical.
Yeah, I really love him.
It's the most feel-good, right-sized festival out there.
That's what I've
It's
heard.
beautiful.
We've been offered to play it a bunch of times, and this is the first time it worked out where we,
I might not be allowed to release this episode for a few weeks or take this bit out.
Yeah,
but
just
it'll be
edit
okay.
it. Yeah, just
I'll
bleep
edit
it out. Old
Yeah.
school.
And my final question, because I know we're obviously under time, is what I do on this podcast is every guest that comes on gets to choose the final piece of music that's played.
Ooh, wow.
So as the episode's all edited and ready for the world to listen to, you can have any song by any band, by anyone in the world to be played. And I know your brain's going, I've got 1 million songs, I need to get it down to 1,000. But what's a song that means so much to you that would be a beautiful song now to be played as I say goodbye?
God. Okay, hold on.
I've asked this to Dustin. I've asked this to Jim Adkins. I've asked this to Brandon Boyd.
All right, I got it. Well, I was going to go kids first, like what my kids are listening to, but
Be selfish. Go for the one that you want.
But that's just Post Malone and the song Morning, which is a track, by the way. I like Post Malone. Let me make it clear. I'm not ashamed. One of my favorite, if not my favorite living songwriters is a guy named John K. Sampson, formerly of the band Propaganda and the band The Weaker Thans, and he's released a couple of solo records. But he's one of these guys like Paul Simon is to me, where I think I know all the material, and then sure enough, there's a song that somehow slipped past me, and he's such a incredible storyteller using so little. There's a song called Bigfoot, and this song is off the record Reunion Show 2006, I think. And this song is about a true story from the perspective of a man, I believe in northern Manitoba in Canada, seeing Sasquatch, seeing Bigfoot, and knowing he saw him, and having to sort of now talk to reporters, and the town is now famous because of this, but they're all looking at him, and he knows they're all looking at him like he's a little bit crazy. And it's about 90 seconds, and it is the most heartbreaking, beautiful tune, and it's something I've been singing to myself the last couple months, so that feels like the most fitting to me.
I've done 300 episodes. I've never had a song under 90 seconds, and I've never had this track, so this is good, because people pick the Beatles, Rolling Stones, Oasis, Pearl Jam, but then
Boring.
This is new.
No,
This
just
is something different. No, it isn't. It is, though. I want to hear something new, because then what
Yeah.
I'll do is over the next week is I'll go down this rabbit hole and just find out loads of new stuff.
Please do. Please listen to his last solo album called Winter Wheat. That is one of the best records I've ever heard. You really cannot go wrong with this man's music. So I hope all the listeners enjoy it too.
And thank you for coming on, and I hope our paths
You are very good at this. We could have talked for a lot longer,
we can
dude.
Do more again
I hope we
time.
can. I hope we
That'd
can,
be
bro.
awesome.
I
We'll just do
appreciate you.
films.
Yeah, that's it. We'll just do films.
Thank you, dude.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
Thank you.